Welcome to the Easter stream, where we are about to torture me, as much as possible in this coming hour. We hired Shakira to do some hips. No, we didn't hire anyone, and I'm not gonna dance, so you can just stay completely calm. We are only here to make you better riders. That's all we presume to do. We have talked about hips like always, forever, all the stream. I think one of the first things I learned in riding that worked to make me a better rider and everyone else that I was talking to better riders was just get tight. But after a while it showed that actually you have to get loose in the hips and tight in the midsection, and that becomes very, very difficult to do at the same time. However, it is a prerequisite to become really good at what we're trying to do. So what we're going to try and do today is we are going to try and make our hips looser. Not make losers out of our hips, but you know, that's for you, Joachim. I hope you heard that. And we are also going to try and go through some exercises that can help you become stronger in the correct movements. And we are going to do some troubleshooting, I guess, as well. The reason why we need to do something on the ground without a horse is different for probably all of us. Quite a few riders out there have one horse and they can ride that horse maybe 3 times a week, maybe 7, I don't know. But quite often we need or want more training than what we can do in those few hours that are allotted to us in riding training. So a lot of people ask, can you show me exercises that I can do at home? And the answer is yes, I can. However, there are 2 sides to this. I can show you the exercise, but you have to do it in order to get anywhere with those exercises. Okay? So I will keep my end of the bargain. If you keep yours, it's all up to you. I'm not going to hold anyone to the fire for it. But if you don't get better because you're not doing anything about it, well, don't say I didn't tell you so. And I will say, told you so, the next time when we meet, okay? So I don't even know where to start today. There are so many things to do. Mm-hmm. But do you have a...
Start with the Stabmo
The Stabmo principle. Well, we can do that. That's a good idea. So this Stabmo principle is just short for stability, mobility. And what it points to is that if you can keep your spine stable, not stabled, but stable, then, then I laugh. If you can keep the stability of your spine, the integrity of your spine in a stable position throughout a movement, whatever that movement might be, keep this thing stable all the time, then that will allow for as much mobility as you can have in your shoulders and your hips at the current level of training. See that? So you can of course get more flexible by stretching, but you can also get more flexible by being more stable. And the opposite way works too. You can get more stable throughout your spine by becoming more flexible in your shoulder and hip joints. We say shoulder and hip joints a lot because those are where we really want to put our attention. If you are very stiff in your wrist, I don't really care. Elbow, same. You can bend it probably to here, most people can. So we will focus on the big joints, the hips and the shoulders, and also we will talk a lot about how to organize your spine in a healthy and practical manner.
One point. Many people actually don't know where their hip joints are.
All right. Your hip joints are seated in your couch. No, they're right here. Not up here somewhere, but in there, where your thigh bone is connected to your pelvis. That's where the hip joint is. The hip joint is quite complex. It looks a little bit like this. It's got that femur, and it's got the neck of the femur. And the neck, with its little head, plugs into the pelvis like that. And that means it can move in very many different directions. So it can obviously move this way. That works. It can move this way. It can also move this way. All sorts of difficult motions can be done through the hip joints. Most of the time you don't have to think about them because your brain is wired to do that all by its lonesome. However, if you want to reach the pinnacle, or if you want to maximize your potential as a rider, or if you have pain or weakness or stiffness somewhere that comes from the lifestyle we are all trapped in with all our sitting, for instance, that means that you have to do something if you want to get really good. You have to counter all those things in one way or another, in several ways preferably. One of the difficult things with riding as such is that the spine is supposed to keep that upright, stable position all the time. It's not supposed to do all this sort of squabbly, squid-like things. Squid, they don't have vertebrae, right? So they can do all sorts of weird things. But we are not supposed to do all this when we're riding for several reasons. One reason is that doesn't give the horse any information about balance. That's one thing. Another thing is that if your spine is moving about, then your hand will be moving as opposed to how your hips are moving, or not even the hips, the seat bones. And that gives different input to the horse in different points in your riding skills. So that makes it very difficult for the horse to understand what it needs to do. Another thing that makes it difficult is that you have placed a big-ass horse just between your legs, and it makes it very difficult because you're put in a very difficult position where you're already in this position. You already need to be fairly flexible to get into that position at all. I remember the first time I sat on a horse. My genes do not remember it because they're dead. They were burned after that because they tore apart. Yeah. Brilliant, because I wasn't flexible. Let's put it that way. I was not flexible. I'm not much flexible now, but a bit, especially in the riding, in a riding sense, I am. So another thing we need to do is in order for the pelvis to stand upright, so that your pelvis isn't tilted forward or back too much, it needs to be fairly level to be a good rider. And then from that position, let's say then the horse moves forward and up like in very high and cadenced and collected canter. The horse will be up in front, and your legs need to stay with the horse both up there and back there. So you need to be able to keep your body upright while your legs stay on the horse, with the horse in that big movement. And you can see that for me, I struggle when I get a bit behind the vertical with my femur. It becomes a little bit difficult to keep the pelvis upright. I want to start and yield the lower back instead, for instance, which is something that most of you too probably will do. This can be down to many different ideas. And we're going to go through a little bit of them, and then we're going to go back to what we can actually do. So it can be because you're used to it. Good muscles are like obedient dogs. They do what you tell them to do most. Yeah? So if you tell them to do this a lot, they will do this a lot. If you tell them to do this a lot, they'll do this. So keep telling your muscles to do the right thing. Stand up. Move about. See what happens. Can you control how you keep your pelvis? Can you stand on that one leg and move your femur this way and that way? And even maybe out? Test different ways to move your leg. See how well do you know your body. The next thing is, so I'll go back on that for a few seconds. So when you when you do these things, you test that, and you ask yourself, can I do it differently? Or how do I actually do it? Ask yourself, what do you actually do? If you don't know, use a mirror, or use your phone, or use your husband or wife's phone, or whatever. Have someone film you. Someone at your stable or yard, for instance, can probably help you out, and it might be a lot of fun even. So what we're going to try and do now next is bring it from can I do it to the next when you can't do it properly. Then the question becomes, why can't we do it properly?
Shall we talk about some exercises that we can do to test if your hip joint is too stiff, like squats or something like that?
Yeah, we can do a few.
Paleo chair.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
So what Hanne is suggesting is that there are some standards that need to be reached in order for your hip joints, for instance, to be functional to the degree we want to. We don't presume to say that your hip joints aren't functional. They surely are. If you are ambulatory, they are. However, there are different levels of quality that can be asked of your hip joints. And we will try and show some things that are fairly important to be able to do if you want to have somewhat of a balanced development of your own hips. And Hanne was talking about a squat or a paleo chair. Should we just we're gonna just sit down in the good old Stone Age paleo chair, like so, and we should be able then to just sit here and relax in that deep squat position
with your heels
on the floor. If you want to get really technical, we want to not have the ankle drop on us like that. This isn't good. That means that you're stiff somewhere, probably more than one where. So we need some of that. I am a little bit stiff, so I like to put my elbows inside my knees and push out a little bit. That helps me to keep some more of the correct position. And then I might even be able to get my shoulders in a good position and keep my head up and still balance fairly well. You can see that I drop a little bit here, but I also have a fairly flat foot because it's not well enough developed from a young age, I suppose. Or at least not in this not so young age anymore. So a paleo chair is a good thing to test out. Can you sit like this? And what's more, can you sit like this comfortably? And can you get up without feeling like you're gonna die instantly? That's a good way to start to test if your hips are fairly all right. There are a gazillion different little points you can look at. You can see, is your back straight when you do that? Is it straight up here? Can you keep your shoulders back or forward? Whatever. Loads and loads and loads of different things. But
and can you keep your balance?
Many people can you do it at all?
Yes. And
it took years for you to be able to get your heels to the ground.
But it's something that you can practice because you can, if you can't sit there and balance, you can sit there and hold on to something like a...
Shall we try?
Yeah.
Both of us?
Yeah.
Okay. And drop. And you can hold each other.
That's cool. We've never done that before.
Huh. Invented right here on the spot.
Yeah.
And back up.
And up.
There you go.
And while I'm up here, you talked about lifting your
lifting one leg.
One leg. If you do this when you lift, that is something that many women. I've got my camera there. Yeah.
Other side.
This side.
Yes, because this you can see the drop there when you do. Oh yeah, that. Yes.
You should be able to do this. And if you do this, then your muscles here are too weak.
Or they're not
Or
doing it.
they're not
Doing what
they're not doing
supposed
it.
to. So ask
They're
them
forgotten
first.
to do it.
Ask the
So-
muscles. If you drop like that, then look at yourself and think, I can't do that. And then straighten up and see if you can do better. Always do the first thing you need to do is ask yourself, can I do better?
So you can train this actually by just doing this.
Yep.
So
Some training done already. Not
and
bad.
sitting
And-
down on the chair.
Yes?
That is a
Another fine way to train for good riding. But sitting down on your chair, that's not all that difficult.
elegant.
Elegant. It's not all that elegant. All right. Here's first real good exercise to improve your riding. If you really want to improve your riding, try this on the chair. I want now to keep my what's this bone called? It's not called that, I think, but that's what sorry? Tibia. The tibia. Oh, look at that. I want this one to stand perpendicular to the ground all the way through this movement. I do not want it to fall forward or backward while I do my squat to reach down to the chair. Did it work? More or less, I think. So what we're going to try and do, try this at home. Try to keep your leg, this part of your leg, perpendicular to the ground, or even this point just in front of the knee, and still stand up. Oh, I failed. Let's do it again, I guess. Forgot this.
Aha, you forgot the stab.
I forgot the stab. The maul was alright, but the stab was horrible.
Yeah, cool.
I'm gonna try and get it more and more.
Yeah.
Correct.
And many people, when they try this, they will sort of fall down on the chair. Yeah, and they will. Sometimes people will give up and they say, "I can't do this. It's impossible." But then you need to practice.
You need to practice, and you need to make sure that you allow your muscles to get into the correct position. The reason we're trying to keep this upright is that if I do it this way, these muscles, the front of the thigh, will do most of the work. So I can lean forward into these muscles and use them to straighten my knees and then stand up. That is perfectly feasible. You can do that to be ambulatory. However, those muscles won't make you a better rider. The muscles that make you a better rider sit on the back. So what I try to do then is put my legs in front so that I can't stand up by straightening my knee. That would be impossible from this position. If I try to push with these, like squeeze these muscles, use the front of the thigh, then I will just push my legs out or push my chair back. So what I'm trying to do is I need to first lean forward. If I lean slowly forward, I can feel that these muscles on the back of my thigh kind of get engaged after a while. Like now, I can feel them pretty well. I can't feel the butt yet. So maybe I have to either get it active or lean more forward. And the more I lean forward, the easier it will be to stand up. I don't want you to speed up forward like that, because that'll be these muscles doing the work again. We'll lean slowly forward until I can feel as if I can stand up easily. And then when I reach that position, I will try and push my legs out, both the feet and the knees, so that these muscles can do the job. And then I squeeze my butt into the air like that. It's a weird squat to do, but it'll make you a much better rider for all sorts of reasons. One, you're in a position where there's room for a horse. That's a good one. This gives no room for a horse. This gives room for a very, very small horse. But this will give room even for the fat horse I've got. Yeah. So that's a good way to start practicing your squats.
And also it's a good idea to do this before you do any stretching exercises, because then you have a sort of a before status, and then you can see afterwards if you become any better. And that's fun.
It's an important point. Do a pre and an after test. Test yourself first. Try if you can do the paleo chair. If you can do that and it's easy for you, find a more difficult exercise. A very simple way to do it would be to try to sit in that paleo chair while on a slight uphill. That makes it more difficult for the ankles, makes it more difficult to the hips. And if you're advanced and you already know of the paleo chair and know where your weaknesses are, then get straight to it, right? Try to do the exercises that we just did, the little squat. With or without weights, that's up to you. The really strong guys, they do 300 kilos like that, plus their big bellies. I don't. All right, so we have already gotten a couple of good exercises in. We're going to try and keep doing exercises to improve movement through the hips. The first thing I want to do now is to address that. No, I can't use that expression. Address the quisling of all muscles. This one.
Yeah.
This will betray you over and over and over. No, it won't. It'll stand up and say, "I can do the job!" Always.
Everything.
But you don't. It'll just volunteer to do anything. Even if you want to bicep curl something, this will bloody well help you somehow. If it can find an idea, it'll try and help you to do the job. But we need these muscles to relax a bit. Because of all the sitting, we have talked about this earlier, but because of all the sitting we do, all of us. It's not just you or just me, it's all of us. We sit way too much. Of course, you can say that we sit just exactly enough to get our job done, for instance, and stuff like that, which is fine. But if you want to be a rider too, then we sit too much. So that means that these muscles tend to be used very little, and these muscles tend to volunteer for everything. And that, of course, makes them stiff, tired, strong, all those at once. So what we're going to do is try and find a way to stretch these thingies. And there are enough ways to stretch them that we could probably fill this whole hour just lining them up. But you don't need many. You need one that you'll do. Here is one that I will do. I'll show you afterwards one that I won't do. Because it hurts. But I'll show you at least one that I will do. And I'll show you how and why and all that. Right, so the first thing I will do to stretch this is to sit down something like this. And then I'll try and keep my pelvis upright. Now, I'm really stiff at the moment. Well, I'm really stiff in these muscles most of the time, but now as well. So it's difficult already to try and engage the glutes, the butt. But I want to try and do that. I want to squeeze my butt so that I keep the pelvis upright. If you just release the pelvis this way, there is of course no stretch on the front of the thigh. So I need to keep the pelvis up. And these, they don't work. There we go. Better. And these need to do it. So I'm already stretching pretty hard in the front of my thigh. So I'm going to try and see if I can get them looser. So what I want to do then is I want to keep my butt engaged. And then I want to try and push my toes through the floor by using these muscles while in this horrible position. So I squeeze for 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. I release and I get a little bit deeper into that same position. Because when you release that after having squeezed them, the muscles are, or the brain is asking itself, what just happened? And in that split second, the brain is confused. You got to trick it and move into that new position where you can move freely for a few more degrees of hip function. Then I'll try and do the same thing again. Try to keep the butt engaged. Try and squeeze the toes through the ground. 3, 2, 1, and relax and move forward a little bit worse. It's getting fun already. Yeah. I hope you guys are joining in. I'd hate it if you didn't. All right, and one more time. I have a break for about 10 seconds, and then I squeeze the butt again and squeeze the toes through the ground. 2, 1, shorter these 5 seconds, and relax, and a little bit more forward, and get back out of that.
You're feeling better?
I'm tired. No, I'm not feeling better. It hurts like a mother buzzer. That's what it does. Is there a question already?
Yes, there is.
Yeah?
It's actually 2 people asking more or less about the same thing. But the first one is Joachim Tryllan. If you cannot do a proper paleo chair but keep falling back, what are some exercises to help with this? Asking for a friend. And then you have Vilde Elvestad, who is saying, when sitting in the paleo chair, how do you avoid falling backwards? And apparently she's asking for Joachim.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, for you, Joachim, are you not watching? Keep watching, we'll get through it. If you fall backwards, it is likely because your hips don't allow you to close this joint enough. So if you're tight around this joint from here, that means that when you get down into that chair, these muscles pull your pelvis this way until there is no more give in your lower back and you start falling backwards. What most people will say then is, my ankles are not flexible enough, but you can sit down in the paleo chair with your ankles in almost an upright position. So it's almost always the hip joint. In this particular case, what you're asking is probably related to the hamstrings and the butt being too tight. Probably also the front of the thigh, because mostly you are tight on both sides of the joint, which is kind of awkward and annoying, but it is still the way it normally works. I think that should cover your question pretty well. All right, so you all are loose now, I guess, in the front of this thigh? No? Another one then. It is the same thing. You do the same thing for the other one. But we'll add some more fun. Mm-hmm. Yay! Quite often you can see us at our clinics picking out a band like this. It's just a rubber band.
You can buy it on the internet. This particular
one you can buy there. They call these voodoo bands, voodoo floss bands. The name suggests we don't really know why this works, but it does work. And here's a fun idea to not try at home. I'll take this rubber band, wrap it around somewhere near the top of my thigh, really hard so that I can't perform the exercise I want to show afterwards. But I don't want to wuss out either. So I guess I gotta man up. Pony up, I guess the saying should be here with us horse peoples. Alright, so that's really tight. And that tight band will make all the angles of attack for all the muscles and tendons and ligaments in this leg now different than they normally are. Yeah? And that already tells the brain that, something's going on. And quite often it's enough to tell the brain that something's going on. But we'll get into that same beautiful, beautiful position. Butt on. I can almost not get my butt on. This doesn't hurt face. It's a lie. Right, this face is a lie. All right, then I try butt on and I squeeze my toes through the ground again. But 5 seconds is way too long. And I move more forward. And I do the same thing with this on. Another fun thing to do if you got bands like this is floss one of your legs up and then ride with it. It's great fun, and it tells your body that it is possible to be in a way better position when you take it back off. Band goes back off, and the leg feels amazing. Now, there are many reasons why the leg would feel amazing now, and the most important of those reasons is it also feels very good to stop hitting yourself over the head with a hammer. But there are more things that happen with the band that you can read about online if you wanna. What I want to say is this works. It makes a massive difference in your riding if you just ride with it for a couple of minutes on one leg, take it off, put it on the other leg, ride for a couple of minutes. Or if you're a maniac, put one on each leg and ride for a while, and then turn around and ride the other way too. Other things you can do with the band on is, when you're riding, is put it on one leg and ride the horse bent away from that leg, and ride the horse bent around that leg, and do that both ways, so that if I ride with the band on the right leg, I ride on the left rein, bent to the left and bent to the right. Then I ride on the right rein, bent to the right and bent to the left, and it'll make a difference all the time. So what happens then is that the band already gives your brain different input than it usually gets. And this is sort of the point of the whole, it's the crux of this whole thing, the conversation we're having. You need to change something. That's the idea, right? So if that band tells the brain already that something has changed, you're halfway there. Something has already changed. And the brain goes, okay, is it dangerous? And then you tell your brain, no, it's not dangerous. I know it hurts, but it's fine. And of course, don't keep it on until you get, what do you call it, gangrene. That's bad. Take it off before that point. And also, do that both ways, obviously, if you've got a band like that. Right. This is loose now. And I hope it is back home too. But there are more muscles around this hip joint than only the front of the thigh.
The inside of the thigh?
Ugh. Yeah, the inside. I don't want to talk about the inside of the thigh. That's horrible. You want to talk about the inside of the thigh?
I can.
Please.
I used to be, when I was riding before, you said, don't squeeze with your legs. And I said, I'm not squeezing with my legs. I'm relaxed. And you would sort of
would grab the knee
and I'd pull
loose.
it to the outside, and I was because it was painful.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I was squeezing, but my muscles were squeezing, and it's really, really common.
Yes.
This problem.
This is a really good trick. What's going on there is she's used to doing something. In this particular case, squeezing the thighs together so that you don't fall off your horse. Quite a lot of you will have learned to squeeze on like that so you don't fall off, or to hold on to the horse, or just because you're supposed to squeeze with your knees so you can do a rising trot without stirrups, all sorts of stuff like that.
We learned that at the riding school.
And it is important to be strong in the inside of the thigh if you're a rider. But it is equally important to be strong in those muscles that lift the thigh out, back, forward, all sorts of things. And this point that we're trying to make is that she didn't know that she was squeezing with her thighs. Just as most of you won't know before you try the paleo chair, as some of you already did apparently, and fall over backwards. You didn't know that you were stiff in that position, or couldn't reach that position, or that your muscles are disobedient, or whatever you want to call it, right? And this is important, that this isn't something that you're trying to do wrong. This is the way your body moves, and your conscious mind has very little to do with your movement. Very little.
Especially,
and even like what you said your muscles were doing it. Obviously, they are under the influence of the brain. you'll find.
But not the conscious
But
one.
not the conscious part of the brain in the way that we talk about here. Right, so what can we do to loosen up the inside of the thigh?
This one.
The same thing.
It works really well. For this, the same thing, put it on the same place, and they will, these one, the adductors and all these other ones on the inside here, they will respond well. You can, of course, try to do the splits and stuff, but we know how efficient that usually is. It's just painful and it doesn't work.
For many people, it doesn't work. Quite often, also, you can't reach the parts of the movement that you really want to try and reach. The splits are mostly to sort of it's supposed to be at the end range movement that you do. And most of us can't get anywhere near the end range. And if you're standing up like this and trying to reach the splits, that can't be done almost, because you need these muscles now to hold yourself up. But you need to let them go. But you don't dare to let go, because you'll crash to the ground and your groin will be horrible for months and months. So this is a good thing to use. Another thing you can do is, if you can find something like this, a ball of some sort, maybe bigger than this, a tennis ball will do, you know, a piece of wood for that matter, it doesn't really matter. Bring it with you, get on your horse. Then when you're seated, as well as you have been told how, put it on the inside of your thigh and squeeze your thigh against the saddle for as hard as you can for a few seconds, and then release it. And you will feel that it is actually possible to relax the leg much more. It's about telling the brain that you can actually move differently than this. Because this is an interesting point, that if you were to take a sample of your musculature, so what do you call those? You take out just a sample of
Biopsy?
A biopsy of the musculature, and keep it. And then you do a whole lot of stretching and you become way more flexible, and you take a new biopsy. There is no difference between those two. The muscle isn't changed. It's the same thing. We don't know how it works. Probably, of course, it is this thing here, the central nervous system, that tells your body how it can or should or would move. So you'll have to engage your brain when you're stretching. Don't stretch while watching TV. Of course you can, but you'll have to be already skilled at it in order for it to be efficient while doing something else at the same time. It's like knitting. If you know how to do it, you can knit while you're listening to someone. I could never do that. Of course I can't knit. That's probably a problem there. But anyway, so the inside of the thigh taken care of fairly easily. Other things you can do for the inside of the thigh is you can try this. Will this support me? Let's hope so. Sit down. Put your feet together. Pull them in. And see if you can't get your leg closer to the ground or your heels closer to your butt. And try to move your knees towards the ground. The reason is, what I'm doing now is I'm actively pulling my knees apart.
So you're using your butt.
I'm using my butt to do that.
And that's the seat, isn't it?
Haha, funny too.
We're talking about the seat all the time, but it's actually the butt.
Yeah, use your seat, use your buttocks. Something like that. All right, so that'll make you more flexible on the inside of the thigh. I actually think that I can sit down much more easily already. I don't need to support myself anywhere. Easier, even if I have mostly worked on just one leg. And then we get to the most important area that you need to get moving. And we're gonna, well, this won't look pretty, just so you're warned. You need a chair, a hard one. And you need something like this. This is a lacrosse ball. It's a hard rubber ball. It doesn't yield at all. If I push down on it with all my weight, nothing happens. It's really hard. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and make these looser. Also, I will try to make the muscles in my butt looser. And I might reach areas that I don't want to talk about. You have been warned. I'll put the ball on the chair and then I'll find my seat bone. While seated on the chair, I'll find my seat bones. You found them?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I'll lift my butt up and put the ball somewhere just in front of one of the seat bones. And then I'll carefully mind you, move my weight around until I find something that feels as if it will snap. There we go. And then I will try and put weight on it.
I'm talking. Oh my god.
Ouch.
It's you guys are all up for this tomorrow, just so you know. Oh, you've done it once, so it's all right. Listen to that. Did you hear that? Supposed to be a student of mine. All right, so I have put a big amount of weight on that thing now. And then we're going to try and do it the really fun thing. And that is to practice moving while that ball is now changing all the angles of attack in that muscle. Just in front of the seat bone. It's kind of somewhere in my hamstring. And then what I need to do now is to straighten this leg while keeping my weight on it. I cheated out of it. Did you see me? I didn't even try to. Right, there we go. And straighten it. And 3 times won't do.
You have to do
5
many.
won't do.
You have to do many repetitions.
Well, I'll sit here for a while.
Like 50. You should.
Is it 50 now? Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet? Please, Dad, drive faster.
But I think you don't have to do it now.
Don't I?
But people at home need to do
All
it
right,
like
so-
that many times.
Now I took the ball away, and it feels like my left butt cheek has punctured.
Yeah,
It really does.
Yeah.
All the musculature there became loose and relaxed, and I can sit down much more easily and feel my seat bone much more easily. That might be a good idea.
And you've done this before many times.
I
So
have
it
done this many
actually-
times, but not enough.
You need to do it many times.
It's like doing service on your car, or making sure it has oil, or whatever other little things you do to keep something in order every day. How much time do you spend on making sure your horse is clean and his hooves is clean and that the tack is perfect? And how much time do you spend making sure your body works the way it should? It's an open question. I know what the answer is in quite a lot of cases, obviously. But if you're being negligent about how you should move and you're a rider, are you doing your best? You probably are, but you're probably focusing your efforts maybe on something other than your body. Moving your body better will instantly improve how your horse moves. Instantly. There is no time in between whatsoever. When I put that ball in my hamstring for a while, I could move better instantly. There is no time in between. I get instantly better. So, other side, I guess just for fun, what I'm going to do on the other side here is just for the hell of it. I'm going to find the seat bone and situate that on top of the ball, and then I'm going to move the ball just to the inside of the seat bone. You might have to turn off the stream. No, I'm just kidding. Don't try this at home, or do try this at home, but be careful. So there's so many muscles around the seat bones, between them even, that you sit on and abuse for hours on end every time you ride. And you and me, we don't do anything about those. There is no maintenance on that musculature. We just let it do its job, and it'll have to suffer for us. And it works fine. You get better even by just riding, obviously. But you could also improve your riding. You want to borrow it? Improve your riding a lot by a hard ball that you stick into your seat bones.
But I know another muscle that we haven't talked about at all.
Nah, what's that?
The psoas.
We're not going to talk about the psoas.
Okay.
We are.
Yeah.
Right. But what we're doing at the moment, as you see, we have stretched the hip flexors. We have addressed the adductors, the inside of the thigh. We have, at the moment, addressed the hip extenders, the hamstrings and the buttocks. They will extend the hip. They will also, the butt will also rotate the hip out. And we have addressed all of those muscles. And it should now be possible for you, with these few easy exercises, to make yourself a better rider. You can do it in 10 minutes. Let me see. 12. 2 minutes each thing.
Mm-hmm.
Stretch the front of your thigh. You remember the movement? This one. Stretch that for 2 minutes. 5 seconds. Squeeze your butt as hard as you can. Squeeze the toes through the ground. Relax. Move deeper into the movement. Stay there for a few seconds, maybe 10. And again, squeeze your butt. Push your toes through the ground, and do that over and over for at least 2 minutes. Each leg. Then do that fun thing with the ball for a couple of minutes.
And it's a good thing when you do this to search for the places that are painful, because those places are where you're stiff.
You will feel it easily. It's like when your eye feels like it's going to pop out of your skull, that's one of the points you need to stay on until it becomes, and I'm going to steal an expression here, like Switzerland. Not full of chocolate, not full of mountains, but neutral. It's not my joke, Joachim. You hear me? So we have already, addressed most of the musculature around the hips.
Mm-hmm.
We're
And now I'm like, pooey.
Got a puncture?
Yeah.
Got a punctured
I
butt.
feel my seat bone here much better.
Yep, good.
And I've done this many times before.
Yeah. We are going to, after this, or in a few seconds, we are going to address some shoulder things.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to talk about the psoas.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe do something about it. Right. We'll do 2 little things for the shoulders. Number 1, Hanne does this thing she calls knutelösning. She sticks her finger down here somewhere above the...
Or here.
Or here. Well, in this here triangle, the Bermuda Triangle of the body.
The scalene triangle, yeah.
Scalenes. And you do the same idea as you do with that ball. Put a little bit of pressure on some muscle here.
Yeah, you see, you can't use the rubber band on your neck.
Don't do
that.
No. Don't use the ball either. You can. I've seen it done with very good effect. So put some pressure on, and then have the student, the person, breathe. Do it yourself. You can stuff your own fingers down there.
Find where it's painful and then breathe. And the breathing goes for this as well.
Yeah, sure.
If you sit there and find a painful point, you can just...
And we're going to show one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you will show on me.
Mm-hmm.
The idea with the shoulder is, it's like this. The shoulder joint is extremely complex. So it's like there's not, they call it a ball and socket joint, but everybody is in agreement that it isn't really a ball and socket joint. It's like a ball on a ball on a ball joint. There's no socket really. There are several bones that are connected, but there's so much musculature and ligaments that hold all that together. So it doesn't fall off or pop out. But what tends to happen with most of us is that the rotational component of the movement you could do in your shoulder, this movement, becomes compromised. So that if I try to keep my shoulders in the correct position-ish, as good as I can, and then I try to rotate my arm, it'll get to about here, and then I want to move the shoulder blade too. So you can see the whole shoulder complex is moving. I'm not moving the upper arm only. And if you lack some of that rotation, it is quite likely that you too have this shoulders come forward when you're riding, for instance, your shoulders will be coming forward. If your shoulders come forward just a little bit, then your upper back will roll a little bit with it, and your neck will collapse a little bit, and then maybe your lower back will collapse a little too. And that is the other way. So the hips will make sure that the loose hip makes sure that your lower back can stay stable, and the loose shoulders will make sure that your upper back can stay stable. Mm-hmm. So we're going to show one more interesting exercise for the shoulder. Would you do that with me on the ground, this shoulder thingy? I'll lay down like this.
Can you
this
see that?
way, I think. Maybe this way. There we go. So I try and get my shoulder blade in the correct position.
Are you okay, Ivar?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So what I do is that with this hand, I press on his shoulder like this pineapple, and he's gone here. That's a quotation. And I press a little down here with my hand, so that the shoulder blade is close to the floor, as close as possible. Close as I can get.
The bone on the back here should be touching the ground, if you have full flexibility.
And then I very slowly and gently I push his hand like this, so that the upper arm is rotating in the joint, in the shoulder joint. And it's important that I don't force him, because then his nervous system will sort of protest. So now he needs
and so will I.
Yeah, because it's painful. And you need to breathe like yoga breathing, in through the nose and out slowly through just let the air just flow out through the nose, and sort of breathe through the new movement. And now I can feel that now it's sort of stopping a little. And then we use the same method that Pelle was showing with pushing back a little. So now I'm going to count to 5 while he's pushing back here. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Push. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let go. And then I have to let go as well, or else he will not trust me, or his nervous system will not trust me. And then I'm trying a little more. Can you see that now he's able to move a little further? And then press again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let go. And now even further again. And then you have to press again. 1, 2,
Oh my
3,
Lord, I'm not strong here.
4, and let go. And then you're supposed to be able to come all the way down to the floor. And Pelle's, especially his right shoulder, is really, really painful and makes a lot of trouble for him.
It's fine.
Once again, press 1, 2, 3, 4, and let go. And then he's all the way down. So now his shoulder joint is much more flexible, and then he's able to be more stable.
Yep. And feels relaxed too. Very good, thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
so that's a good way to restore internal rotation in the shoulder. And most of us miss a lot of that. And you can check that in the mirror. If you're like this, you miss internal rotation in your shoulder, more than likely at least. Okay, so we have now made sure that you know how to make your hips looser from the front of the thigh, the inside of your thigh, the buttocks, and the back side of the thigh. Is there a question?
Yeah, I'm going to be a bit difficult now.
Please.
For all of us who live alone and don't have someone to hold our shoulder back and force our arm into awkward, painful positions.
Yeah. I'll show you. If the camera will follow, I'll show you. I'll repeat the question. The question is, for all of us who live alone and don't have a super friend is defined as a friend who is also willing to make you more painful while you're already in pain. So nobody who can actually make your shoulder drop to the floor like that, like Hanna was doing with me. Yes, I'll show you how to do that. So if the camera will follow, what you're going to do is this. You lay down. You put your shoulder blades flat on the floor. You might have to lift your butt up in order to do that. You can see that when I roll up, the shoulders get really flat on the floor. I need to lift my butt really high because I'm really stiff. And then you put your arms underneath your butt. And then you do that same idea. Maybe I am so stiff that when I do both of these, I need to push up now. So I push towards my own butt or back, wherever I hit. And then I relax. And then I can lower my butt a little bit. And then but it is an exercise of skill. You see that it's very easy to just roll your shoulders up. Make sure you don't do that. Pay attention to what you're doing and keep believing in the system. Squeeze your hands up, relax, and see if it's possible to get your butt just a little bit lower without the shoulder releasing from the ground. That way you can do both arms at once without any help at all. Easy, right? Or get someone to do it for you. All right. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, thank you.
Very good.
I've got a thing that I was thinking about. There is often a problem when people are doing this exercise, you know, this stretching down and touching the ground. And I've got this, once I had a student, and you know who, I know who is going to say, oh, that's me. Yeah, she was going to yoga, she was going to Pilates and all those things, and she was not able to touch the ground. And then she was standing like this. I can't do it. And I said, but can't you just move your hip joint? Hip joint? And I said, yeah, you have a joint here, in here. And she was like,
Just drop
she was
to the
like,
ground.
wow, I can do it. She had forgotten that that is more common than we think.
Yeah.
That your nervous system has sort of forgotten that you have a hip joint. So it's also something about the making your nervous the sort of motor nervous system. What's it called in English? Yeah, the part of the unconscious part of your nervous system that is controlling your movements has sort of forgotten that you have a hip joint. So many of these exercises are also about getting to know.
Get to know your own body.
Yeah.
Pay attention to what your body is doing. That's what it's about, right?
Yeah.
Right. So hip joints taken care of in all sorts of ways. Shoulder joints taken care of. We're going to mostly leave the spine alone today because it's very complex to deal with. It is like it is so scary with the spine that there's hardly a doctor that will tell you to train your neck or your lower back. And neck and lower back injuries are among the most prevalent injuries we have in the whole in this country and all over the Western world at least. So something needs to be done about neck and lower back as well. For us riders, definitely. You know, everybody knows that riding is great for your back, and also almost every rider has a back that's just a sack full of rocks. It's just not useful for anything proper. A lot of back problems in riding as well. If it comes from the riding, or if it's just the same problem with everybody, we can't tell, of course. But anyway, I think we now have covered hip joints, shoulder joints. Keep your upper body stable. And I'm going to repeat the most important thing that we have said today. Do this all the time. Just a little bit. If you can just do 2 minutes today, that's amazing. That's way more than you did yesterday, probably. And please keep doing just a little bit. If you need to tell someone that I did something today, then shoot us a message. We'll say, hooray, I promise. We'll cheer you on. Because this is so important for you, for your horse, for your own health, even, you know, for your mind. They say that there's something about a healthy mind in a healthy body or some such. And on that nuclear bomb, we're going to leave you hanging. Thank you, guys.